Yeah, once we start though, I'll. Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Aaron. Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
So we're still waiting for people to show up to this meeting. Hopefully, we'll get a decent turnout.
Is this your first Zoom meeting, or do you guys do this usually?
I haven't been doing them, but Richard, who's also on, is a cogger.
This is not my first rodeo, no.
Hi, Richard.
Good morning.
So Charlie's the one that's actually going to be
Sharing?
sharing. So
Okay. Yeah, the control's on at the moment.
I will stop sharing.
Okay.
Do you want me to test sharing, or can I? I don't know.
Morning, Jack.
Good morning.
Looks like you're out on the trail already, huh?
That's it. Actually, I'll be there as soon as this meeting ends, but best I can do for now.
Good morning, Jen.
Good morning.
Looks like you have a little one in the house, huh?
I have two little ones.
Oof.
That's why I'm on mute.
Yeah, I'm working from romper room usually, so.
I'm just testing that, Aaron. Is it okay?
Yeah, that looks good.
Hey, everybody. Oops.
Morning, Susan.
I just disappeared. I adjust my screen, my picture disappears.
Hi, Susan.
Hey, Jen. Oh, you're outside, Jack. Nice, sitting on the Greenway.
Soon.
I may have to jump off early. Got it so much going on today, unfortunately. And I have a 10 o'clock meeting, so I'll be on as long as I can.
Definitely expecting some more people, so give them a few minutes, I guess.
You're working on the beard and mustache there, Aaron?
Yeah, so I had to.
It looks good.
I had to shave the beard so that I could wear a mask.
Oh.
And I haven't seen my face in like 15 years, so.
Oh, well, that's right. You had a beard. Okay, that's right. I forgot you had a beard before. For some reason, it always throws me off.
Yeah, it's different. My son cried for, I don't know, 45 minutes when he saw me.
Oh no.
He was not
What
happy,
happened?
but everyone's getting used to it.
Looks good.
I'm still not used to it, but.
There was a time where a whole bunch of people in my office had mustaches, and they all shaved them off at once, and I was like, did you always have a mustache? Was your face always like that? I don't know why. You get used to it, and then when you don't see it, it's like something's different.
I was expecting Rista, but. Check my email quick.
Hi, Aaron. Hi, Susan.
Hey, I thought you were Sandra. Hey, Sandra, how are you?
She's my technical guru.
That's great. Everybody needs one. My husband's my tech guy. So I'm learning a few more tricks than I known.
Yeah, I know, huh? Time to do it?
Say hi to Sandra for me, please.
Certainly will. How's married life?
Good.
Yeah, good. It's pretty cool.
Coming up on 3 years now, so it's been a while.
Yeah. Really?
Good morning, Jack. Good to see you.
How you doing, Charlie?
Good.
Hi, Jack.
Hello? Long time, Kevin.
I know. Nice to see you. I see. I'm taking it that's virtual behind you. Vision straight.
For now. Won't be in a little while.
Yeah, beautiful day out there.
I have the window open.
It's been too windy the whole month. The wind has been ridiculous.
Tough to fly the drone.
Charles and Richard, I'm afraid I know your names, but I'm Susan Peterson. I'm with Connecticut DEP in the Watersheds Program.
I'm Richard Crowther. I work for NVCOG with Aaron.
Okay.
I'm basically running the Zoom.
Thank you.
He's our technical guru.
Wonderful.
Hi, Susan. I'm Charlie Tracy. I work with Aaron and others on the Connecticut Trail Census.
Oh, wonderful. So are you with Yukon or?
Yeah, Yukon Extension.
Oh, and are you out of the Haddam office or?
Yes, actually.
Okay, great. I know some of your other crew there, like Chet and Mike Dietz and those guys. I mostly work with
It's a
Mike
great crew.
It is. Very funny too.
Yeah, the team calls are hilarious, actually. I've been exploring Haddam Meadows too these days. It's beautiful. The state park.
Nice.
Who just joined on a Samsung?
They could be learning how to use it too.
Okay, here I am now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Suzanne from Harwinton.
Oh, good morning.
Hi, Suzanne.
How are you?
So I guess maybe we should just get started, Jack. I think Rista was supposed to lead the meeting, but
Okay, well, I think we've done all the introductions already. So why don't we move right in, because it's a busy agenda, a lot of really good information. Hopefully people had a chance to read, through some of the stuff that Aaron had posted. I guess, Aaron, you were being compliant with the new FOI rules that you have to post the materials prior to the meeting as well as the agenda?
well, I thought.
You're muted.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I thought it'd be easier for everybody to have things in front of them. So I tried to post as much of the material up as possible. I was still working on stuff yesterday though, so some stuff didn't make it up there, but.
I thought it was very helpful, very helpful. So, but we're going to start with Charlie Tracy. I think, Charlie, it's the first meeting for you with us, but you've got some great data and you have a presentation. So I think Richard has to give you the screen so you can show us your PowerPoint. It's got a lot of interesting data about trail use. So Charlie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jack. We did some introductions, although I don't know everybody. I see Jen and Kevin, Zach. I don't think we've met.
Charlie, my name is Kevin Zach from the Naugatuck River Revival Group. I've been with this Naugatuck River Trails Greenway since the beginning, I guess.
Wow. And hi, Jen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay, my name's Jen Riley. I'm at the Connecticut DOT and their policy and planning unit. So I work on the bike ped stuff along with Anna. I don't know if you know her.
Oh, I sure do. Yeah. Yeah. Great.
So yeah, Connecticut DOT.
Nice to meet you. And I see Suzanne and Cleve.
I'm Suzanne. I'm with the town of Harwinton. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation there.
Hi, Suzanne.
And Cleve, you want to introduce yourself? I see you just joined us still. You're muted though.
They may not.
Learning.
If they're new to Zoom, when I came on, the video and the mute was on automatically.
Right.
Yeah, I have
So
that.
you couldn't see me.
Cleve,
There's no way to get a message to her, huh?
There,
Cleve.
looks like they're on now. Cleve?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
The video's muted as well.
The video should be on.
Cleve, why don't you give us your connection, because we've got some new people on today.
I'm sorry, couldn't hear.
Give us your affiliation, because we've got a couple new people today.
Oh, sure. I'm from Litchfield. I happen to be the chairman of the EDC there, as well as in several other organizations.
Okay, great. That looks like everybody that's on board right now.
Yeah.
So before I switch to my my PowerPoint, I just want to share the background that I have is Chauncey Peak. And it's a project that I did from my previous work with the National Park Service. We actually commissioned an artist to help us think about what a trail community means. And so one of the things he did was he gathered Instagram and social media and Facebook images from, I think, like 30 different users who had took this picture and then created a collage of it. And so it was a beautiful way of showing how important this view is on the trail, and also showing all the people that care about it. But if you look, also you can see it actually shows four of the different seasons. So it shows people.
Where is that, Charlie? Where is
Chauncey Peak.
Where is Chauncey Peak?
Shoot, is it in Meriden?
No
Get back
idea.
to you on that. It's in Connecticut. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm blanking on the town.
Okay.
I think it's on the Mattabesset Trail, right?
Yeah, Mattabesset Trail.
And that's why I recognize your name, National Park Service. Okay. So you worked with John Monroe?
I did, yes, Susan. So John Monroe is, one of my old pals. I was in the same program as he was. And so I was only a few cubicles away from him. So heard a lot about the Naugatuck River Greenway Trail from him all through the
We
year.
miss him.
And the great people that he worked with on it too.
Oh, we see you now, Cleve.
Hi, good to see you, Susan.
So I'm glad to be here. I'm going to give an overview of the Connecticut Trail Census, basically a sense of how it works, not in deep detail, but just basically what we're doing, and then talk about some of our current initiatives, what we've been learning from the impacts of the COVID-19 on trails, and then some of our new initiatives that we're going to be getting started with.
Okay.
So as probably some of you know, really the trail census grew out of the Naugatuck River Greenway with Aaron's work, working with Laura Brown and others, looking at measuring use on the trail and also studying the demographics of users. So really, in a way, I feel like I'm coming back home, or the census is coming back home to present to this group. And it's great to be here, even at a socially distant way. I look forward to meeting with you in person sometime. I think the key thing from this logo is we're really focusing, at least currently in the trail census, on multi-use trails, not all trails. I'm hoping in the future that we can actually broaden the focus of it, but for now it really makes sense that we're focusing on multi-use trails because they get probably the most use of trails in Connecticut. Some of the genesis really of the project was, I think, this top bullet, data-informed decision-making. The Greenways Council and others in the state, Connecticut spends a lot of money on trails, but really did not have much data about how they're being used, who's using them, where we might need new trails, what important connections might be needed. And Connecticut is certainly not alone in that. Most states don't really have do a lot in terms of monitoring and looking at trail use. But so that's probably the big gap that the trail census is trying to fill. The other things kind of go along with that. One of the cool things about it is that we work with volunteers to collect data, and that gets them more involved. And then kind of working out of both of those is trails advocacy. Part of the trail census goal is to get information out there about who's using trails, but also, I want to see more and better trails, not just more, but more in the right place and better in terms of better designed to meet the needs of whatever area it is. And that was from my work in the Park Service too. We had a number of projects in different national parks where we realized that the trails that we had were not really serving the needs of the people. And by redesigning, reconfiguring, we were able to have the trail experience much more effective. Just an overview of where we are monitoring trails. And as you can see, it's a mix of sort of short trails and long trails. We're looking at what I would call regional trails, but then in other cases, some just sort of community trails. The other reason I wanted to show this map is that one of my goals, and I think the census and others, is to really think about moving towards a network of trails so that they're more accessible to larger parts of the population. One other thing is, most recently we're doing a pilot project on one of the Blue Blaze trails on Mount Higbee in Middlefield, just to start looking at natural surface trails and move in that area. But it's just one project, and we're working in partnership with the Connecticut Forest and Park Association. This little gray box is our workhorse. That's the traffic's infrared counter. It has an infrared beam, and it's reliable, although it's not perfect. In order to sort of calibrate the counts, just to give you one example, is when 2 or 3 people go by this counter, it may only give you one blip. So to sort of calibrate for that, we have our trail volunteers do manual trail counts, and we compare those to the counter data, and from that create a correction factor. So that's something we do every year. So, it's really good, but it's not perfect. I'm not sure what counters are perfect, but also it's reliable. The only sort of negative on these is you have to go out and download the data. In my dreams, we're going to get eco counters, which are wireless. So I could just or anyone could just be at their desk and see the counts go by. Again, I want to emphasize one of the real strengths of the census is that we have 3 full years of data on many of these trails, on a big, about 20 of them. And that is important because for research purposes, being based at UConn, we're starting to get more interest now from different researchers, because it's kind of a good collection of data to really start thinking about. This is from our website. This is one of the data visualizations, as you can see, it's not a competition. Actually, Aaron always reminds me, but definitely if it was, the Naugatuck River is winning. That's the big line that sort of overarches all the others. However, if you look closely, although the Naugatuck River Greenway has more volume, the shape itself is quite similar to all of these. And all of these shapes are what we would call a recreation use signature. These are, for the most part, not that they don't have some commuting, but these are for the most part trails that are getting recreation use. And here's another, so this is sort of a summation of all the data from 2019 on all the trails. And you can see there's a lot of the pattern. You can see the recreation use pattern. Nicer weather, weekends, that's when people are out there. Most recently, with the stay-at-home order and everything else that came with the COVID-19, we realized that it was a chance to look at the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on trail use. This is actually but it's a really nice infographic from the National Recreation and Park Association, some folks I used to work with, just about, I think it really capsulizes, what to think about when you're in parks and trails. This chart summarizes basically the trail impacts. We compared March 2019 with March 2020. And you can see in almost, in most of the cases, I wrote more than half of the cases, there's a more than doubling in use. Naugatuck River Greenway is a little bit different. The increase was not as large, but I think it's partially, I think you guys all know it's such a well-used trail anyway, which, and it always is. So it kind of makes sense that the increase might not be as large. I also just wondered, Aaron, or others, is this a commuting trail too?
Not much.
Not
Not
much.
yet.
So it's
There's
just
some
really
from,
the use.
Shelton. There's some to Shelton, and there are people that come back and forth to shop at BJ's, but for the most part, it's recreation.
Recreation. Well, it's definitely it's my kind of trail with this data. But this was helpful for some of the trails that didn't get as big a bump, and actually one I think may have had a slight decrease was because they were almost completely commuting. This is again zooming in now just on the Naugatuck River Trail just in 2020. And part of the reason I'm showing this is the kind of data you can just download this. This is a PDF. You can choose what kinds of things you want to show from our new data visualization site. And in the report, this shows the range. This is just in alphabetical order, but Naugatuck had about a 15% increase. But at the same time, 15% on that, it's, as you can see, from 32,000 to 37,000. It's impressive. But it's also important from a management and design point of view for the communities to think about some of these trails, particularly once they get to a certain volume. I think it does make social distancing more of a challenge. So to complement our trail counters, we also do trail user surveys. In the past, we have done these with our volunteers, doing what they call an intercept interview. So that's just approaching people on the trail and asking them to fill out a paper survey. Luckily, sort of fortunately for us, before the pandemic hit, we had decided to move to an online survey. And the main reason was we did a pilot study last summer and found that using online, we got about 10 times more the response rate, and for a lot less sort of time putting into it. So we are moving, but now with social distancing, it's really imperative that we move to an online survey. So that's going to be rolling out in the next couple of weeks or so. Here's just a quick, the survey itself asks about all kinds of things relating to trail use. Who did you come with? Maybe some of your spending habits relating to the trail, what your goals are on the trail, and that's this question. We're trying to strike a balance between getting enough information, but making it short enough that we don't turn people off to the survey. But coming soon to a trail near you will be a sign that looks sort of like this. The online survey is activated by a QR code, so you just hold your phone up to it. Actually, most phones now, you don't even need a QR reader. It's just built into the camera. The survey will be, is optimized for just using on your phone right there. So we've tried to keep it as simple and user-friendly as we can. The good thing is this is kind of an evergreen study, so we can keep, as long as we can keep the signs up, we can be collecting data. We can use this same one for next year or on other trails too. The survey is set up for the particular trails that we are studying right now, although it could be adapted later for other trail use. So stepping back, for me, it's like, well, why are we doing the census? What are we getting out of it? And the top line for me is support for trail grants. And support, that's kind of a light word. It's really it has really been very effective for the different groups that we have worked with in applying for new grants to improve trails, add trail facilities, or extend trails. One example right now is we're working with the folks in Hartford, Riverfront Recapture, and they were applying for grants for some new trails there. And the woman that I'm dealing with there, Martha Keneally, said, as soon as the funder saw the data that we had, it was, you know, because it's not anecdotes, it's real data, it just made the whole thing go more smoothly. On the other hand, some of the data we've been sharing with DOT, and I understand that that has helped them think about designing trail, you know, thinking about trail width when we're designing new trails. So that sort of is this, the second wish is this data-driven design. And actually the data-driven, it's more than just design these days, because with our data, it's also data-driven policy. When you look at our charts, you can see that most of the trail use takes place between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. So if you want a social distance, you know, staying outside of those times, those sort of prime times, you're going to have a lot better shot. The last thing, I mean, I wrote media coverage, but it's really about advocacy. This particular clip is focused on the Naugatuck River Greenway. It was a great Channel 3 piece talking about the report, but also how people are really valuing the trails these days, the need to get out. And that includes me too. I think keeping my balance these days, a lot has to do with my ability to just get out and get outside and breathe. The new things we're working on right now and sort of upcoming, we got a grant that will help us focus to really use the 3 years of data we have to extrapolate to answer the questions. Well, what is this whole trail? What's the use on an entire trail? So, like the Farmington Canal or the Naugatuck or the airline. We have counters in different places on it, but how can we really think about the trail use as a whole? And then related to that, I'm really interested in extrapolating from what the data we have to really thinking about what are the statewide impacts of trail use. And the grant we got recently, it's actually focused on a multi-state grant to look at bicycle and pedestrian monitoring. We're working with one of the national experts on extrapolating from, you know, existing counts to get a bigger picture, a guy named Greg Lindsay out of University of Minnesota. Another research project we're working on is looking at how trails, and it's funny, I was gonna say, it's funny how some of this stuff feels like it's becoming more relevant, but looking at how trails contribute to community resilience, which is community health and quality of life. The subset of that will actually be looking at the impact on families who use trails. The third item, I am really excited about working both with DOT and DEEP to really think about trails, you know, both in terms of recreation and transportation. I guess sort of a more holistic look at trails. And I think that we're starting to assist DEEP in thinking about measuring state park visitation. And we're going to be working with DOT on assessing many of the multi-use trails in the state. The last thing, which I'm also really excited about, is we recently got funding support to launch a Connecticut TrailFinder site. This will be one-stop shopping for all trails in Connecticut. The site is actually relates to my previous work. It'll be based on similar sites in Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont, where they have gathered, where they put all kinds of trail data on. What I was going to say is one of the sort of hallmarks of the TrailFinder approach is that, unlike some trail apps that are basically sort of open source or user sourced, the TrailFinder's trails are are based on data from trail managers. So it's sort of trail manager centric. And the big advantage of that is that the data that we will have, that we'll put up, will be reviewed and approved by all the trail managing organizations, such as DEEP or Connecticut Forest and Park Association or land trusts or local communities. And then that makes it way more reliable, for one thing. But we've seen in the partner sites in northern New England that sort of like the trail counter surge in use, the TrailFinder sites are also getting more use. And we think in the future it will help. One of the things that's going on now is a lot of people are going to their same old trails because those are the trails they know, and that the TrailFinder will help to expand their trails vocabulary, their trails portfolio. You can put it, you can do a search for family-friendly moderate hike that's a 3-mile loop kind of thing and find things in your area. Other things that features on the TrailFinder site will be trail-related events and also trail side services and trail-related businesses too. So I'm really excited about that. Honestly, I wish we could launch it tomorrow, but it's going to take a little time. Basically, we're going to start the project in June and hope to launch as soon as we can in the new year. So it's really great to be with all of you. I'm open for questions or whatever discussion follows this, and thanks for listening.
Any questions?
Yes, a quick one about using your phone for those little black squares.
QR code.
What do you call it?
QR codes.
QR code. How does a phone use it? I've never been able to figure that out. You just put it in front of it, but do you have to hit a button on your phone?
Well, if you just put your camera on it, it'll say, do you want to go to this website? And it'll take you to the website.
Okay, so you don't have to take a picture of it or something. It just...
No, just show it up to it. Now, I know in the more recent updates with Android and iPhone, it's like a native, it's built in, it's native.
Also, where can I find some of your presentation? There, specifically, there's a couple of graphics on the user pattern.
Oh yeah, I think Aaron posted it.
Okay.
So the
whole thing?
There's a link to the web page
Gotcha.
in the calendar event.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay.
And all that stuff can be found on there. And also, I put a couple links to the Maine and the Vermont and New Hampshire TrailFinder websites, and that's the same technology, the same software and backend that that we're going to be using for the TrailFinder here in Connecticut. So you can sort of get a preview of what what's envisioned for that website. I think it's really nice. I use some of the trail apps to find places around here, but I think the issue I've always had is that it's not always the most reliable information. You're getting sent on hikes that people have done, which may not be the best hike. It may, might not be the safest. It might not even still exist. So, having trail managers, so having, CFPA manage their trails, local land trusts manage their trails on the website. I think that's a much better approach, and it'll be, the most reliable information that's out there. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that was a great presentation. Very interesting.
It was.
I had a question myself because it seemed to be somewhere in the news recently. I don't remember if it was on my computer or the radio. There was something about a TrailFinder trying to encourage social distancing to go to a different trail. So I had the impression there was something out there. And I guess my question is, how will you be able to distinguish the new TrailFinder that you're developing from the other ones? I guess part of it's in the name and branding, as opposed to so people know that you really want to go to this app.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Susan. I think once it's up, people will. And part of it is the reliability. If you see the other websites, the one in Maine and New Hampshire, Vermont, it's got It's got their state park agency logo. It's got the Park Service. All the key, groups are on board with it. And they have also it's a pretty nimble site too. They're already working on being able, because it's trail manager oriented, if trails are closed, they can easily get that information up to date on the website. And the other thing too is that, which I also like, because I've been in trails for a while, is maybe some land trusts may have some trails that they want to have on the website, but others that they don't. It's their decision. So I think that really makes sense too, because from certain points of view, maybe you don't want everyone. But I will say that in the history of the other two sites, gradually they're just getting more and more because they're really seeing it's an advantage.
We've got a lot of great data here. This is all ongoing. I would also urge people to remember that we also did that great economic impact study that Aaron and his crew put together. So you combine those two, you can make a strong case just about any place for the value of the trails. But it is nice to have those numbers, because people do ask, well, if we spend this much money, is anyone going to use it? Well, the data shows if you build it, they will come. So very helpful. So thank you, Charlie. And when will we see the April data? I know you're working on that.
What we're trying to do is combine installing the signs with collecting the April data. So, as soon as we can, it'll probably be actually include May data as well. So, but Jack, my favorite quote with that is, I think it was the Still River Greenway, but at one of the public meetings, someone said, oh, no one uses this trail. And they said, well, the data shows 60,000 people use the trail. So,
it does make a difference.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
So,
And I think
all right, thank you.
I just wanted to sort of discuss a little bit about about COVID-19 trail impacts.
Yes.
I know Ansonia decided to close their section of trail, which
it doesn't get any use anyway. So I mean.
Yeah, I think it was sort of a knee-jerk reaction. But I don't know if anybody else wanted to talk any more about that. I know Jack, social distancing is probably getting a little bit difficult at certain times of the day out on your section of trail. So I don't know if you've talked to the mayor or anything about possibly closing that or trying to limit access or anything like that.
Yeah, I'll give you an update. I did call the mayor's office, and at least they did put up some signage. But it is difficult, when you get the numbers that we get.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that. I will also tell you that, the signage encourages people to wear masks. That's a lost cause. That's not happening at all. I would say less than 25% of the people on the Greenway use a mask. And in all honesty, when you look at some of the research on trails, I don't know how effective they are anyways. It's more just kind of make people aware that there could be an issue, but people are not going to wear the mask. And, I just caution people, don't stop anyone else on the trail because you're wearing a mask and make fun of them for not wearing it, because you're liable to get socked in the mouth. It's, it's not a good idea to do that. But it is difficult. Charles gave you a good example of using the data. You could find when the trail is most used. If you want to avoid the social distancing problem, go at an earlier time. I generally go in the morning. It's not an issue, but when I go in the afternoon, it's an issue, because there are an awful lot of people who have no clue about social distancing. I mean, just no clue. They walk 3 and 4 across the trail, too deep. Sometimes the stupidity just is amazing. The lack of awareness that this is a real issue. So, but they're still coming. They're still coming. They're coming.
It's all about personal risk assessment, and you make your own decisions based on your own personal environment. My stepdaughter in Colorado, who lives by a river and a trail, had to readjust her time to go out there to avoid the traffic that was building. So she goes out earlier. You know, we all have to, you know, we can't, we're not, you know, a communist country, then put a gun to everybody's head and say, don't go. You got to readjust your own personal use of anything.
Yeah, I think our obligation is to provide as much information as possible to people.
Touche.
They're going to make their own decisions. So.
Well, you know, when you look at the data, Saturday and Sunday between 2 and 4 account for more than 50% of the use on most trails. So it's really, if you can stay out of that, you're really improving your, you know, social distance chances.
But you know, it's funny. I don't think I've seen any report any place yet where they've tried to make the case that someone caught the virus from being out on a trail. Maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't seen a single story written to say that. Anybody else?
No, it seems to point towards nursing homes mostly.
Definitely. I know in the valley.
The numbers are heavily skewed in there.
Yeah. So.
And I think it's the trails that are keeping us, you know, physically fit and mentally fit.
Definitely.
So, you know, closing all the trails, I think, would be a bad idea. So.
Hey, just as a side, the day that Ansonia closed their trail, I just happened to walk that. You know, usually I do the Derby every day. I seldom do Ansonia because it's, you know, it's only 0.7 of a mile long. But that day I happened to do the Ansonia side of the trail. Okay, back and forth on the Ansonia side of the trail. You know how many people I saw that day? Three, the entire length, and 2 of them were wearing masks. So if there was any trail where you were safe, it's the Ansonia, and they were the one that closed. And you know that happened really because there was a woman who called WTNH to complain, and WTNH came out and did a story. And if you saw it on television, problem was there was nobody on the trail. They had to go to the Derby side of the trail to interview anybody. So it's, you know, I don't know. It just didn't seem like a good decision to me. But you know, if you're a mayor, you look at it differently. You know, you can say, hey, better safe than sorry. So I fully understand it. But in all honesty, when you've got the 2 trails side by side, one that gets enormous use and it's open, and one that gets almost no use and it's closed, you say, oh my God, it's kind of crazy. So.
And I think it hurts because, you know, the people that would have gone to Ansonia are now going to go to Derby too. So it's sort of piling users onto that open section.
Yeah.
And sort of funny, the NVCOG, we bought a few counters on our own to look at some of the trails that are not in the trail census. And I installed one in Ansonia a couple of days before they closed the trail. So not doing much good right now.
Perfect trail now.
Right.
Note that at all.
We can see how many people are actually not listening to them closing the trail.
There are a few. I've seen people go, you know, jog across from the Derby side to the Ansonia side, but not many. And, you know, Ansonia also did something different to try and attract more people. You know, the Derby side does not allow dogs. And in all honesty, because it's not very wide, it's not an ideal place for dogs. But because they weren't getting any use on the Ansonia side, they allowed dogs. And I understand it was a way of boosting, but you know, it caused problems in Derby because some of those people then walk across on the Derby side and they're not allowed. It's just, you know, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So, all right, why don't we move on, because we do have a lengthy agenda. Aaron, you're going to take up the Thomaston Torrington routing study.
Yes, thank you, Charlie. Somebody did join us on the phone. It's a 203-509 number. I just want to make sure I have you marked down. Can you announce yourself? Maybe I have to unmute.
When you're muted, can they hear you? Like telling them that they're muted?
Oh yeah. They can
Okay.
hear you. You can't hear them.
All right.
Hello,
Yeah,
somebody.
Aaron, it's Roy Kavanaugh.
Hey, Roy. Good morning. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now. I have a quick presentation. Let's see. Okay, so I just wanted to give a sort of overview, a quick overview of the Torrington to the Thomaston to Torrington routing study. It was endorsed last week at the NVCOG meeting, and I was hoping that we could have this committee endorse it as well. And I'll sort of focus more on the comments that we got and some of the controversy rather than the actual routing, because we did cover the route in detail a couple meetings ago. But if you want me to go into any more detail, you can just let me know. So just a little background. NVCOG received the grant in 2017 from OPM for a responsible growth and TOD grant program. And we also funded some of my time that was spent on it by DOT and federal highways money that we get for regional planning or for transportation planning. BSC Group was hired to be the engineering consultant. We kicked off the meeting in January of 2018, so it's been a long time that we've been working on this. And representatives from Torrington, Litchfield, Harwinton, and Thomaston were on a project steering committee along with the two COGs and the Army Corps of Engineers and the Naugatuck Railroad. So Cleve and, sorry, somebody is trying to get in the meeting and I have to admit them. So Cleve and Suzanne were on that committee along with their counterparts in the other towns. So the purpose was to really inventory and assess all the potential routes between trails that are currently being developed in Thomaston and in Torrington. So we sort of had this section where we really had no routing. There was no really good line we could draw on a map to say that this is where this trail is going to go and really start thinking about how we could fund it. And we really wanted to have those routes decided on by the stakeholders in those towns and the public. So, the report, it's meant to detail the preferred route and provide information to local officials so that they could make informed decisions when grant opportunities come up, or if they want to look for local funding for the trail. So skip ahead here. So the report, it's on the website. I hope you've all taken a look at it. It provides detailed routing and trail layout and phasing concepts for 7 corridor segments. So we broke up that, it's about 10 miles into 7 segments that are sort of, they make sense with a beginning and an end, and they make sense as projects. And then they're also sort of broken down into phasing if that's if that's what funding calls for. And we also included other information about trail development, so funding opportunities, design considerations, permitting, signage, maintenance and safety. That's information that could really be could be used by any town that's developing a trail, not just along the Naugatuck River Greenway. So we published the report in February. We had a 30-day public comment period, and we were overwhelmed with almost 400 comments, and almost all of them were from the OHV community. And most of them, can fall into these 3 categories that are on the screen here. Do not eliminate or alter the exclusive off-highway vehicle use at the dam. OHVs cannot safely share space. There's only one place for OHVs in Connecticut, and there's already plenty of non-motorized trails. So basically, don't impact the OHV area was really the clear message. And since there was so much controversy, since we got so many comments, I just want to sort of address those here and how we've really incorporated those comments from that group and from the Army Corps of Engineers from the very beginning of this project. And you can see, actually, if I go back, sorry. So they're very well organized. New England Trail Riders Association, NETRA, they set up this web page, this website. They've got funding to run the website, and they really pushed back really hard on this, through the site and I'm assuming through other avenues as well, to get their membership really riled up about this. So we got comments from Tennessee and Georgia and, all over the Eastern Seaboard, New York, New Hampshire, Vermont. So it was, it was a very organized effort to push back against the report. So I'll sort of talk about what that controversy was and how we sort of dealt with it. So Thomaston Dam, which is right here, it's a flood control dam, and the Army Corps of Engineers operates it, and they also manage a lot of property behind the dam. So they own or control parts of the river for about 7 miles behind the dam, all the way to just below Route 118. It's a multi-use recreation area. That means, it's not just OHVs that are allowed. OHVs are allowed, and OHVs are two-wheeled, basically dirt bikes. And they're allowed between the dam and Spruce Brook, which is, I don't know, about 5 miles of the west bank of the river. And again, OHVs are allowed on that area, but it's a multi-use area. There's hikers, fishermen, bicyclists could use it as well. And initially when we started looking at potential routes, there was 2 that really stuck out that go through that area. There's an abandoned rail bed that was where the railroad was relocated when they built the dam, and then there's old Route 8. So the old rail bed is a 10-foot wide level rail bed that's now used as an access road, and old Route 8 is a 25-foot wide paved former highway that goes through the area. And they were really attractive initially because they're already built, they're going through public property, and they're multi-use areas where bicyclists and pedestrians are already allowed. So when we initially gave the public information meetings where we talked about all the potential routes, we heard, again, a really loud outcry from that OHV community. So, 150 of them showed up to the Thomaston information meeting. And, since we got such a public outcry, we did really sort of stop and think, maybe we need to think a little bit more about this. So we met with the Army Corps of Engineers and the OHV representatives, and we went out and did a site walk. We talked to them several times about how the area is used, try to get a better understanding of how the OHV users ride and thanks, bud. So we found out that there's over 200 trails, OHV trails, and about 26 miles if you add them all up. They're mostly one-way single-track trails. So, Route 8 and the abandoned railroad bed sort of split the area in 2, going north-south. So on the west side of Route 8 and the rail bed, all of the traffic goes northbound, and on the east, it all goes southbound. And that Route 8 and rail bed are two-way traffic. So those two are used basically for riders to get from one area to another, to avoid some of the more difficult areas if they need to, and also as a way to get back to the parking area. And we also looked at, really, how could we avoid this area? Is it possible to avoid the area? And we looked at a bunch of other options as well. So, we did take all of that information into account when we were developing the route concepts. And wherever there was a feasible alternative, the preferred route that was suggested to the project steering committee completely avoids the OHV area. So, it stays on the east side of the river as much as possible. And then there's a 2-mile section between Valley Road in Harwinton and the dam where there really isn't another option. To the east of the river, there's several private properties, and it's extremely rough terrain, which would make building a trail next to impossible. But on the west side in that same area is where old Route 8 is, and it's already open to the public. And we thought that, a 25-foot wide paved highway, we've got to be able to figure out a way to share that space safely. So we worked with the Corps of Engineers and the NETRA representative to develop a safe separation concept, which is on the screen now. This is where there's enough room, basically create new OHV trails parallel to old Route 8, and take part of old Route 8 and make that the trail, so that, the uses would not really mix at all, except for where there would be a controlled crossing. And again, we sat down and we talked this through with the Corps of Engineers and with the OHV representative. And they both agreed that it was feasible, although, I think the OHV rep, they obviously want nothing to change there, but he did agree that it was feasible. And if there was no other alternative, that this could be a possible solution. So we presented this to the project steering committee, and it was ultimately selected as the preferred route. And just to sort of summarize, we did incorporate OHV user comments, and I think the preferred route that's in the report really reflects that. It's, it's much easier to have, it would be much easier to build a trail through the OHV area on the west side of the river, but we suggested putting it on the east side of the river because of the OHV area. And we really focused on the safety and enjoyment of all permitted users at the dam. And like I said, it's a multi-use area. There's already uses mixing out there. We just want to make sure that if we do encourage more pedestrians and cyclists, that it can be done safely. And again, this is what was a high-level routing study. The Corps ultimately is going to be deciding what happens on Corps land. So, we recommend that they do it. What's presented in the report is a suggestion. We think it's a really good solution, but it's ultimately up to the Corps, and the Corps working with the OHV community to make that happen. And again, it was the preferred route was approved by the project steering committee, and the COG endorsed it last week. So, we would really like I think it would give a little bit more weight to it if this committee endorses it as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the OHV issue, or specific routing if you guys want to talk about that.
Aaron?
Yes.
What was the Corps' temperature? What was their demeanor towards you versus the user group that came out against it? How were?
So I think they I think they were hearing it loud and clear from the OHV users as well. So I think it was an uphill battle for us to even get them to seriously consider what we were proposing. But the
Army Corps,
once we were in the room with the core staff and the Metro representative, and we presented, you know, the issue that there's really no alternative here. This might be the only way to do it. And they gave us feedback, and, you know, I think they were much more receptive in that meeting. And I think they've become less receptive since they started hearing it again from the OHV users. And I think, you know, I think a lot of the pushback that we got in this last round, you know, I got the feeling that a lot of those people did not read the report and did not actually look at the proposed route
Study.
or the, you know, I think they went to their that website that they set up, and they got sent directly to the comment page on our website, and, you know, just commented. So yeah, I'm not sure.
It's easier to state for the Army Corps to remain status quo.
Right.
They don't have to do anything. It's probably their natural tendency to, if all things are left alone, to just keep it the way it is. So I'm really thankful for your efforts. That's really very encouraging, by the way, regardless of how they feel right at the moment. Did a good job, and I'm definitely for this.
You know, it was very balanced,
Yeah.
balanced, very respectful of all opinions. You know, I went to some of the public hearings that, to say they were difficult would be putting it mildly. The opposition was out in force and really angry with, you know, to the point where I don't think they really, as Aaron said, read the alternatives to see if it was a possibility. But, you know, that is what it is. I was very pleased the other day with the NVCOG meeting that they quickly endorsed the study. And I was really pleasantly surprised by how strong the first selectman of Thomaston was in endorsing it, not only as the first selectman, but as an individual. So, you know, I think it's probably fitting that we as a group also endorse it.
Absolutely.
You know, in fact, if someone would like to make a motion to get that started, I think that would be appropriate.
I endorse. I'd like to make a motion to endorse that study.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Roy Kavanaugh seconds.
Okay, any more discussion of it? I mean, at this point, nothing is going to happen tomorrow, but at least, you know, the report is out there for everyone to read in an unbiased fashion. And hopefully, you know, it could lead to some action down the road. All right, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried. Okay. And I see that Mark has joined us just in time, Mark, because
Good morning.
you and Aaron are up for the next two items. And the first one I think is kind of exciting is it's an update to the 2015 project priorities. So, Mark, who's going to do it? Are you going to do that, or is Aaron going to do it? And
I think Aaron can start off, and then I can fill in.
okay, Aaron,
Okay.
the ball's in your court.
All right, so I'll share my screen again. So in 2015, we sort of reviewed all of the sections of trail, and with this committee came up with some regional priorities. And I think this document has served us very well. You know, I think we've used it in all of the grant applications we've put together. And I think it's been helpful to sort of show funders that, that, you know, this isn't just a one-off thing, that this is, there's a plan to connect pieces, and there's a sort of a regional effort here, and that we're working cooperatively together, these 11 towns in the corridor. So a lot's changed since 2015. A couple of these pieces that were priorities in that document actually got built. A few more got funded. so we really wanted to take a look at it and sort of update it so that we could have a fresh document and continue using it to help the effort. So I don't know if you guys recall, basically we went through every section and identified ones that were either connecting to open sections, were either, potentially easy to build or less expensive to build, and really looked at the low-hanging fruit anyway. And then we also looked at some of the local priorities as well, and to see if those sections were regionally significant. So we identified 5 tier 1 project priorities. I don't know if Mark, I don't know if you want me to go through them or.
I don't think we need to really go through them. And again, I think the intent here is, it's 5 years old now, and I think a lot has occurred in the last 5 years. And we want to use this as not only just, a listing of our priorities, but just as, look what we have done. We've accomplished a lot. We are accomplishing. We're moving ahead. Because I think a lot of times the public looks at these things and say, oh, this is great, but you're not doing anything. And it takes so long. It's like, well, this is our document that says, no, we are, looking at all these, we're working on, we're trying to advance them. And I think one of the things that Aaron and I would like to do with this next report is, there's a lot of sections in the different towns, and we want to hear from the towns to let us know what their priorities are. Like Naugatuck has a few sections. What is their priority? We shouldn't be making that decision. The town of Naugatuck should inform us what we're doing. So, and again, so it's going to be a little bit more maybe involved in the first report because we do want to take credit for what has been done.
I think the spreadsheet is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so this really want a picture of what's going on. This spreadsheet, even though you have to expand it to read it, but it's up on the website. I encourage everybody to download it and take a look at it because it's impressive. Because as you say, it's easy to sit there and say, it'll never happen and nothing's done. Well, take a look. A lot has happened.
Yeah.
These things don't happen overnight.
Right. And now that we've completed the routing study. Torrington to Thomaston, we have a better idea what the preferred sections would be in Litchfield, Harwinton, and Thomaston. And sort of unfortunately, we have a little bit better understanding of what the costs may be for those sections. Because when we did this, we had a very, very high level number. And if you look at the routing study, we're talking about a lot of money is needed to build those sections in those 3 towns. So, but again, it's good information, and we want to put it all in one spot.
Yeah, I think the spreadsheet really does it. Again, if you want to quickly answer, if somebody says, "Well, nothing's going on," just take a look at the yellow, and you see very quickly there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But I think that for one place, one spreadsheet that sums it all up, this is it.
Yeah, and I would encourage everybody to go through, the town where you're, who you're representing, and see if we do have the best information. So, we updated it with all the information that we had available, but double check and make sure that our figures are right, and what we have here still represents the sort of how the town is thinking about different sections of trail. And maybe we might be able to talk a little bit in some of these sections right now. So for instance, is Suzanne still on?
Yes, I am.
So Suzanne, we took the trail sections from the routing study and put it into the Litchfield Harwinton section there in the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
One really stands out as low-hanging fruit. And that's the Valley Road section where, the report sort of suggests, basically signing it maybe some roadway markings to make it a shared use facility. So where, you know, cars are still going to be allowed, but there's only, you know, 70 or 80 cars a day using that road. Speeds were fairly low. So, you know, it could be safe to, you know, basically put up some signs and some paint and call that part of the Naugatuck River Greenway.
That would be a nice check off the list, right?
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's 2 miles, so it's not a, or it's almost 2 miles, so it's not, you know, it's a substantial chunk. And if we could start promoting it, you know, we could get, you know, more people down there enjoying the river.
Sure.
Where, you know, I don't think many people from outside of Harwinton know that that really exists. So, you know, that's the sort of thing that we would think about as, you know, making a regional priority, because it is, you know, sort of easy to do.
Right. No, I'll share that with the selectmen. Also, would it be helpful to have the Board of Selectmen endorse the routing study? Would you?
Yeah, I should have mentioned that. So we've been working with Rick Lynn at Northwest Hills. I think he's thinking about putting it on their COG agenda either in July or maybe August. So I don't know if the town would want to endorse before that or wait until after. But yeah, that really would help. You know, I think any local endorsement would help. You know, help with the, you know, help give it a little bit more weight. You know.
Sure. Okay.
Watertown, Roy, if you're still on the line.
Still here.
So in the previous priorities report, we had Branch Brook to Frost Bridge Road as a tier 1 priority. I would assume that still holds true. I think that's, you know, what you guys are working the hardest on getting done right now, right?
Yes.
So I think we'll probably keep that in there. Let's see who else. Cleve in Litchfield and Harwinton. So Litchfield and Harwinton are the only towns that actually where the river is their border. So, you know, the route that's outlined in the study, it sort of hops back and forth. So it's sort of difficult for one town to sort of take that on. And a lot of that property is actually state or federal property. So I don't know that other than that, that Valley Road section, that there's a clear priority there that jumps out at me. But if Litchfield wanted to say that, you know, one of those was a priority, you know, I think that would be positive, if that makes any sense. I think that's the only town representatives we have here, though, right? Other than you, Jack. Derby's in a good position relative to the rest of the Greenway, where you're basically built out. But we did have a priority last time.
The bridge.
I think we had something about going under Division Street as a priority, and I don't know if that still holds true as a prospect.
I would hope so, but you know, right now Ansonia is, as you see, in the final design for their section, so that's their priority. But could avoid a lot of problems if we could not have an at-grade crossing at Division Street. That's just it's a horrible place to cross the road. Just horrible. Even with the traffic signage, it's not good.
Aaron, can you quickly go back to Naugatuck and summarize that if you need any message to get back to the mayor or Jim?
Sure. So the last time around, we, you know, I think as because it connected an open section and a soon to be open section, that northern piece from the bridge, from the pedestrian bridge north
by my house.
Yeah, to the Waterbury line. That was a #1 priority.
Mm-hmm.
they have since applied for funding for that, but they haven't received it yet. So, I think that's probably the biggest regional priority because it does connect to two sections that will be open soon. But they're also pushing hard for the Maple Street to Greenfield section as well. They have a lot SIP application in. So, I'm not sure how to approach all of this in this newer document. Maybe one can be a regional priority and one be a local priority. But we, Naugatuck is really trying to get these things built, and they are looking for funding. So, we want to support them as much as possible. That last one, so Greenfield South is a little bit more difficult.
That's all good.
I think that was technically a tier 2 last time.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, I think what we'll be doing is reaching out individually to each town and asking for input. And then we'll bring a revised document and recommendations for regional priorities to the next meeting, which would be in August. And hopefully we'll have talked to everybody before then so that, we can ask the committee for an endorsement then. I'll just say along with this, I'm also working on mapping all of this stuff a little bit better so that, we can present it better online and also use that information to help promote the open sections of trail. So I'd like to really get a nice website up, with parking areas and information about each section of trail. So that we could use it a little bit more as promotional rather than just informational.
Okay, any other questions? Again, it's an impressive piece of work, and again, you just have to keep plugging away at it. It's not all going to get done in one day, but a little bit at a time. Eventually, it will happen. So, all right, now I think during the course of this, did you really already cover Watertown Thomaston design? The next item on the agenda, or is there something else to add to that?
Mark, you want to talk quick about that? Just.
Yeah. Basically, we're a little bit on hold. You may recall we had submitted a lot SIP application to build the section in Thomaston, including a new bridge over the Branch Brook. Watertown then subsequently submitted a lot SIP application to continue the trail from Branch Brook down to Frost Bridge Road. The issue at the department is they're concerned about potential impact to the water main that runs along where the trail in Watertown is being proposed. So we're working to try to allay those concerns. Roy is committed to doing some geotechnic work to identify the location of the water main and its depth, and to try to come up with mitigating ways to mitigate any impact and conditions during the construction of that trail. And hopefully that would allow the department to approve our funding for these projects, and they can just start moving forward. The design for the Thomaston section is complete. We still have to go through sort of a design review, but we've started that, and Aaron showed up the basically this is it would be a prefabricated bridge that would go over Branch Brook, and then there would be a sort of a little staging area, like a cul-de-sac circle on the Thomaston side as you approach the bridge. And again, the issue we have with placing that bridge again is we have to make sure that anything that as they're constructing it doesn't impact the water main. The water main is very old, and if we do any damage to it, it's going to be a real big expense that we really don't have the funding to cover. So the bridge is going to be put sort of on shallow footings, and so to minimize how much disturbance of the area would be. So we're moving ahead. Right now, we're still working with the department on trying to get the approvals. And once I think Watertown gets that full report on the exact location of the water main and its depth to below the surface, we'll have a better idea of how we can go about constructing it. VHB is wrapping up the project, and their last deliverable that they're currently working on is developing typical cross sections for different areas of the Watertown Trail. One, basically where there are no constraints on either side of the trail, so it's just going to be an open trail. They're going to show the typical section over. There's one area that's kind of narrow and it goes up there's a steep drop off. How that was going to be protected. And then the trail as it's going near Route 8. They're going to do a cross section for that, and then a cross section that is in proximity of the railroad track. So we should be getting those relatively soon.
Okay. Well, next item on the agenda is membership and meeting format. And under that, you see attendance, and obviously today's attendance is not good at all. I would suggest, though, Aaron, that spreadsheet that you've got, if we send that to everyone and say, hey, at our next meeting, we really want to get into the details of this and see if we're on track or what needs to change. We would need participation from all the towns to do that effectively. So I would say let's make that the cornerstone of the next meeting and really encourage every town to be represented, to give their update so that, they don't feel as though we're dictating to them, because we're not. But
Right.
We need their feedback to say, hey, is this still valid? What would you like to see as your priority on that? You can't force anyone to come, but I think it's in their own self-interest to come to these meetings.
Yeah, I had heard from a few other people that I thought were coming today, so I'm not sure why we have such a low turnout today. I feel like most of the other remote meetings I've been on lately have been sort of hit or miss. Either a ton of people show up because it's easy to do and they don't have to actually drive somewhere to do it. And then, I don't know if it sort of lacks the importance when it's a virtual meeting or what, but so, and I'm not really sure, looking forward to August, it's pretty likely that we're going to be in the same situation then, where, meetings are going to be virtual.
Yeah, when we had the in-person meetings, we did have the advantage of visiting the different sites and whatnot. I think that did bring people in. But again, I think that spreadsheet is really our roadmap to the next few years. So I think that could be a draw for people to participate. Because I other than that, I don't know what to say. I think these remote meetings are so easy to do.
Yeah.
Anybody can get on. There's really no barrier other than your own time and interest to getting here. It's a lot easier than having to travel. In all honesty, it's a lot shorter. There's no commute to make. It works very effectively. So, again, my comment would be that we send in the next meeting around that spreadsheet and really encourage every town to be represented to give their feedback on it. Why don't we move on to the roundtable discussion? Anyone have anything particularly want to talk about for their town? Hey, Mark, maybe you could give an update on Ansonia because they've got an interesting part of their project coming up.
Yeah, basically, well, they got, they're working on the design for the section actually in downtown. I forget now exactly. It was like as part of their master plan. I think it was like section 2, 3, and 4. And the design is moving pretty far along. They're almost done with it. They still have one little issue near the end of the flood control, or what is it, Target down there.
Yeah.
And trying to get an agreement with Target to, sort of trade some property so they can, as part of the trail was going to go pretty much on Target's property. So they're trying to get an agreement to swap some land so they can get that thing. But it's moving along. And so I'm not quite sure when they expect to be completed and then go out to construction. But the other thing is they did put in a TA application to look at, no, excuse me, that was the rec trails, wasn't it, Aaron?
Yes.
Yeah, to look at, come up with an alignment to continue the trail from downtown Ansonia up to the Seymour Town line.
And Sheila did share with me that they're working on, I don't know if they put the RFP out yet, but they were working on finding a consultant for that.
Okay.
They had like something like $60,000 or something from Rec Trails.
Yeah, and so I know they also, and not that, I don't know if you are familiar with the build grants. That's a federal funding, discretionary money. It used to be Tiger, and now it's referred to as build. And Sonia is putting in a build grant to look at a planning study that would create a sort of like a relocated route, was 334 that would go from downtown directly to the Route 8 interchange and provide a much better connection between Route 8 and their downtown area. Right now, Route 334 sort of winds through residential areas and things. But as part of that planning study, they also would look at building the Greenway along that corridor. So the build grants are very competitive. So it's, it's not a definite thing. But if they do end up getting it, that they'll be looking at, that as an option for the alignment of the trail. So they got some things going on.
They still have the lighthouse in the design?
I haven't heard about that lately, so I don't know for sure. I know that was sort of going to be an issue with the Corps because whether the foundation for that lighthouse could be accommodated on the flood control wall or near the flood control wall. So I don't know if that was sort of taken out of the design. I just don't know.
And the connection with Shelton, the Derby Shelton Bridge, that should go out to bid later this year?
Yeah, we're hoping to. That's at 90% design. There is a time constraint where we have to obligate the construction dollars by end of September because we use some repurposed federal dollars that have to be obligated by the end of the federal fiscal year or we lose it. And that's moving along. We extended the project limits to include continuing the sort of the bike path down along one of those, the connector ramps between the Bridge Street Bridge and Canal Street to make a connection to the Shelton River Walk. The big issue with that project are utilities. There's a number of utilities on the bridge and unfortunately, there are a lot of old ones and our work is going to impact that. So the cost to relocate the utilities is escalating and of course the department's a little bit concerned about that. But yeah, that like I said, we're at 90% design completion and we're hoping to get those funds obligated probably July, August.
Great. Any others want to give some updates?
If I may for a moment, it's about the impacting of the future of the Naugatuck River through affecting the Kinneytown Dam. It's a complicated under the radar project that has been undertaken. I've, through the Naugatuck River Revival Group and personal funds, I've retained an attorney from Maine that's a dam specialist to mentor now the Save the Sound with Roger Reynolds has taken on this project to quote unquote create safe, effective, and timely fish passage at Kinneytown. I've held it from the press. We're not ready to go to the press until our ducks are in a row. But you can't put a price tag on a free flowing river for 32 miles all the way up to Thomaston. And one thing I'd like to throw out to the group is, and especially Aaron, we're looking, it would be nice if I could find somebody like a graduate student from Yale or UConn to do an economic impact study to the benefits of a free and flowing river. Fishermen drive 100 miles to fish a river that is free flowing. They spend a lot of money. I think it would impact the Greenway tremendously in the whole quality of life on the river. So in the vein of like your study that that brought to the forefront that it would cost $77 million to build a Greenway, but it would impact economically all the towns to in excess of 300 million, correct? Did I remember those numbers correctly? But having said that, realize that with the Greenway, over $333 million will have been spent on cleaning up and restoring the Naugatuck River. And to add a free-flowing river, it's the first dam and only dam on the river now. And the company is a very well-capitalized multinational corporation that has what they call an exempt small hydro license, and they never have to come up for renewal. But it doesn't mean that they're exempt from harming the Naugatuck River. They only pass probably 3% of the fish down there. They have a fish ladder that's not working. So a letter is hopefully going out soon with some influence of the attorneys to the company to demand corrections on that with their fish ladder. We don't have enough time to get into it, but I just wanted to let you know that it is moving. And I haven't updated you in a while, Aaron, but we lost our attorneys, Pullman and Comley, and I had to search for another Connecticut-based firm, and STS has taken on the call. So things are developing and in a good way. So okay. If anybody has any questions, but it is complicated, and I could do a whole presentation on it someday in the future if you want.
Who actually owns the dam now? You said
it's a company called Enel North America. They're a subsidiary of a company based in Rome, and the Italian government owns 40% of that company. And they only generate 1 megawatt versus to put it in perspective, 700 houses could run their hair dryers in the dark. The economic benefit to our society is, and the damage they do is so overwhelming. It's hard to make any kind of argument to keep this. It's a 413-foot dam, about 20 feet high, by the Seymour Waste Treatment Plant. And it's been a dirty little secret. And they get their raw materials for free. They have an outhouse and 1 employee down there. And they don't give a damn about any of this or the river or the fish. And with the fish and everything else, it's a holistic viewpoint. It's not just about fish. It really isn't.
Well, it's interesting because, just farther upstream, the city did develop the bypass in Seymour. So
yeah, that's absolutely, that's part of it.
3 or 4 miles up the road. So it is interesting. You've got in this space of 5 miles, one place where they remove the barriers and another place where still have.
It's been stopped since 1844 at Kinneytown and in the 1700s at the Tinube Dam bypass area. That's
Oh, yeah,
been a long time.
they did provide a valuable service in their
At one
time.
time. Yep.
Okay, it's just that it's not viable for that purpose anymore. So we'll see what happens. Any other towns? Any other business news? All right, well, you can see the next meeting is August 12th. Probably going to be a virtual meeting. Cleve, you have something? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself first.
Upper right hand
Aaron,
corner.
Aaron, you can unmute them too.
I think I can. Yep. Let me here. I got you. Okay, Cleve.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to apologize. I haven't been very active this morning. I have such a poor internet connection. I've been in and out of the meeting numerous times and I missed a lot of it. So I'm sorry that I wasn't a better participant.
That's okay. You've been very active since you've been involved, so that's good. All right, anything else come before the meeting?
Is Jen still there?
Yes.
I'd like to speak to her before she leaves, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like you have a great assistant
Could
there.
we have a discussion sometime about Litchfield, perhaps hosting a bike event next year?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you get in touch with me?
Yeah, I'll email you.
Okay. Very good. askcleve@gmail.com.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all. We'll see you in August.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thanks. So long, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, Cleve. Take care.